The title of the case is Golden Pond Estates Mobile Home Park versus Crystal Gray. Mr. Steve Cromen is here for Golden Pond Estates. Their manager, Casey Villa, is also present, and the defendant, Crystal Gray, is here. Megan Bauer from Legal Aid has filed an appearance on her behalf. We're struggling with several issues, some having to do with water and sanitation, and some having to do with the amount of rent. The parties have been working on this matter and are all here today. Mr. Cromen, I'll defer to you and see what our status here is today.
Well, Ms. Bauer and I were just on the phone for, I don't know, half hour or so here immediately before the hearing, trying to work through a number of the issues that we've got outstanding. We do not have a resolution on them. I provided, at least after our last hearing, there were a couple of issues that I had come away with trying to provide information on. One of them was the operating license of the park and whether or not that's current. I am actively working with my client and with the state of Michigan on that. It sounds like there was some miscommunication with where those notices were being mailed. And so that should be rectified. If it is not already, it should be rectified very shortly. The other was the utilities and the water quality. I provided Ms. Bauer with testing results going back through 2024, June of 2024 through today, or through this month. I'm sorry, through August of 2025, as well as the end of the year 2024 full report. So she does have those, but it sounds like she still wants some more. Meg, I'll let you kind of speak to that.
All right, well, let's look at the numbers. The amount alleged was $1,226.42 plus $249.20 in utilities, some credit card costs. Then we added in August. We're now into September. At that time, we were at $1,870.62. That was on August 29th. Then on September 5th, we just kind of further down the rabbit hole. And I don't know that we had a figure.
I can give you the figure Bauer, I have as of today.
Yes.
So I have rent for possession in the amount of $633.42 and court costs in the amount of $249.20 for a total for possession of $882.62.
All right, Ms. Bauer, what's your position?
So my client has paid in excess of $3,000 towards her rent, and the majority of or everything that plaintiff is seeking in order to have an order of possession is additional fees and costs. The range of those fees and costs, so what was listed as rent as at $633 is actually almost exclusively utilities. And the utility charges, utilities and late fees, I should say. The utilities are owned and operated or billed, I guess, by a third party. We have questions about the accuracy of those billings and statements. There is no lease between the parties obligating Ms. Gray to pay the park or allowing the park to take her payments and applying them towards other fees and not towards her rent. So there's a legal question. Can unpaid utilities and late fees alone provide a basis for a judgment of possession for non-payment of rent? That would depend on whether the lease authorizes that. In this case, we don't have a lease, so the defense's position would be no. More immediately, though, the park is unlicensed still, as Mr. Cromen indicated. one of the violations or one of the bases for the delay in getting its license renewed did involve exposed sewer lines. And so that's the primary, or that's the next factual question raised in this case, which is whether there should be any mitigation based on the quality of the water that has been delivered to the tenants. And to that end, Your Honor, we have submitted several Freedom of Information Act and other requests to the state. The state has been processing them, and we don't have them back yet. So although Attorney Cromen Dyke has provided us with some water testing results, those are in isolation, and the defense is seeking the entire context so that the court can have the correct and accurate picture. Indeed, Attorney Cromen Dyke and I have gone back and forth. We're a lot closer, I think, than we were. We are closer, but we're at an impasse on the utilities at this point. I can elaborate.
Well, let me stop for a minute. He's calling it rent, and you're saying it's not rent. It's utilities and late fees. So I don't know how that figure is, that 633.42 comes out. There's this whole issue with this third-party water providing and metering service. They apparently operate the well. And as I mentioned this in each hearing, we've got this issue with each of our rural mobile home parks, water and sanitation issues when you have a large number of dwellings in a small amount of space with a septic above the water table. It's a recipe for water quality issues. This property did have some sort of a sanitation or large septic system put in at one time, but I'm not sure what the status of it is. So first issue, you're not licensed to operate a mobile home park presently. Do you even have standing to sue her for this?
I don't know.
We would argue the defense would argue the plaintiff does not.
I don't want to open Pandora's box, but that's a pretty fundamental issue. The next issue, and we're really down to splitting hairs here. The court costs are the court costs, no matter what anything else is, if we come up with $1. So we're fighting about $633.42. Plaintiff claims is rent, but it isn't rent. It's water fees and late fees. But the defendant doesn't have a lease. So I'm not sure you can even request late fees when you don't have a lease. And the lease, there is a homeowner lease agreement that was filed, but it isn't signed by anybody. Miss Gray, did you ever sign a lease?
Ms. Gray, you'll have to unmute and make a verbal statement.
I was trying to figure out how to do that. Sorry. No, I have not.
Why not?
I was seeking legal advice on it because there's a lot of things that were questionable to me about, like I wasn't sure. And it was a lot more money too if we did sign a lease.
So are you renting the lot and trailer?
No, I own the trailer for 5 years now.
All right, I'm gonna dismiss this case without prejudice under 3 theories. One, there is no lease, so plaintiff's not entitled to request late fees when there's no lease. There is no lease, which doesn't entitle plaintiff to request utilities payment, which are not included in this non-lease agreement. And third, the defendant is not presently licensed to operate a mobile home park. So fortunately, these numbers aren't huge. Ms. Bauer, I'd ask you to present an order to dismiss without prejudice.
Understood, Your Honor. I'll get that to you this morning, or before I leave. There's only a few minutes left in the morning, but
All right. What I would suggest for your protection, Ms. Gray, and the protection of the park, Ms. Via, that you get some sort of a lease for her to be on this property. Ms. Gray, if you don't have a lease, they can simply ask to terminate your tenancy and have you move your trailer out of there. If they have a proposed lease and you don't want to sign it, then you don't get to stay there. If they have a lease that will clarify these things, what is the local security deposit? What is the late fee? What is the utility agreement? Right now, we're in the Wild West because there's no lease. You made substantial payments. I think you wish to stay there. I don't know what these water quality tests are. I don't know if they're a test out of your tap or there's some test at the wellhead that the company has provided. We've all seen the terrible stories where they flush red dye down the toilet and then they run the faucet and the red dye comes out the faucet. So I don't know what those mean. Anyway, we've got three issues: no lease, no late fees, no utilities required without the lease, and I'm not sure they can even operate lawfully. Now, I want to tread lightly. I don't want to make all the people at the park homeless. Ms. Via, how many units are at the park?
Let me just go ahead and quickly check, Your Honor. Golden Pond. 41, sir.
As I indicated, this park has been here for a long time and it's passed through several different owners. I'm not sure about the most recent incarnation. Years ago, when we had terrible water quality problems, the health department was reluctant to condemn it because they didn't want to make all those people homeless. I'm not sure what their position is. I'm not going to make a referral. I did the last time. But you and your landlord need to agree on a lease. This case is dismissed. That doesn't mean they couldn't sue you for money damages in a different method. But right now, they're not going to be able to evict you for not paying these amounts. You don't want to get in a position where you could be evicted. So even if you don't have a lease, there is some requirement that you pay the monthly rent. So I would suggest you guys come to agreement as to the lease, and we'll wait for that certification of the park. And at this point, we won't resolve these water quality issues, but I'm sure they're still out there. As I said, there's probably the village Memory Lane's mobile home park is outside the city of Sturgis, but they actually are hooked up to Sturgis sewer. Meadow Lane in Three Rivers is in the city. The other trailer park on Erie Street is in the city. It's the ones in the country that cause problems. All right, Ms. Bauer is going to file an order to saying this matter is dismissed without prejudice for $600 unresolved, and they also lose their attorney fee. And costs. So we may not be done with this, but as far as the termination action, it is dismissed. So thank you all. And I'm sure Mr. Cromen, maybe we'll have cases in the future. We'll try to get to the bottom of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.